Well, good morning and welcome to another RiderCamTV video. And today, look at this extra special machine that we have to take out. The R1250 BMW GS Adventure with this colour matte colour scheme. I think it looks more like a goldy brown. That would probably be a better description, but brand new 1250 2019 bike. Looks really special, but as you already know, I love GSAs. It's got TFT screen, it's got all that goodness, it's got the SOS button, all of the usual trackpad, all of the usual buttons and gadgets and stuff on it. Fully loaded. This is the exclusive TE version. So it's got everything on it, dynamic suspension, ESA, all the good ABS stuff on corners and all that sort of stuff. Just looks the business. But these bikes, you know, they just look better and better and better. I don't think, like the RT that you would have seen in a previous video, I don't think that they've done an awful lot with this changing of the style of the bike. They have done bits here. The panels have changed a little bit. The panel on the front's changed a little bit. Other than that, it basically looks like the same bike as the 1200. But they've upped the brake horsepower to 143 and the 134 and the torque to 143. So it'd be interesting to see whether it changes the characteristics of the bike and how those characteristics have changed and whether it's better or whether it's worse. I can't say that it's going to be worse. I'm assuming it's going to be better. But the only way that we can find out is to go and ride it. So that's what we're going to go and do. First things first, let's make sure the mirrors are looking in the right place. So we want to be able to be seen behind us, which is good. I do like this TFT screen, and the TFT screen is something that I haven't got on my bike, and I'm quite happy with my bike. There's no problem with my bike. I do like the ability on these though to change from miles per hour to kilometers per hour really quickly, because when you are riding abroad, to rely on those tiny little numbers on my dashboard is a bit of a pain. But sitting on it, it feels exactly like mine, exactly the same as my bike, and it'd be interesting to see how it rides. Now, I did notice that when I put it in first, there is no clunk, no movement of the bike. It's just the smoothest thing, and they've obviously transposed and improved the quick shifter from my bike and the RTs all the way through. I did notice that because I'm used to riding my bike, flicking it into neutral from first was a bit of a pain a couple of minutes ago. I was going into second quite a bit and then having to put it into first and come back up again. But it's just so smooth. There you go, into second. So I think it's just because it's a new bike and it has no miles on it whatsoever. This is brand spanking new, out of the factory, transported to the dealership, and I'm the first person to take it out on the road. So first impressions, doesn't feel abnormally different or any difference to my bike other than it being really tight, and that's obviously because it is brand spanking new. And I think with these bikes it's very easy to get carried away with all the gadgets. I mean, that screen is beautiful, absolutely beautiful screen. And I think it is easy to get used to those gadgets and things when, you know, the dials and stuff are just as good, but these, you know, it displays things in a more colourful way, up-to-date way, you know, that sort of stuff. Now, the usual refinements that you've got on this bike, we've got all of the added extras because this is the exclusive TE version of the Adventure. So it's got the quick shifter, it's got the dynamic suspension, it's got the SOS button, it's got everything you can imagine that they can fit onto this bike is on it. Which is great. And I did notice, we'll have a look around a little bit later on at the differences, I did notice there's Bridgestone Tires on them rather than the Anarchies or Torrents from Metzler, which is a bit strange. They must have had a job lot, and I know BMW, probably like a lot of manufacturers, they put their bikes into production or their vehicles into production, and then they have deals with different manufacturers of different things, i.e. tyres. It feels very comfortable, but all GSAs are. Now, the one thing that I would have liked to have seen on the Adventure, and I'm probably going to get slated for it on the comments, is that it hasn't got a heated seat. Now, I know that this bike is a different market that they're aiming at from the RT. However, many of the same people buy these bikes as would buy an RT. When you take me and Mark, me for example, I have toyed with the idea of having an RT, and I've had an RT, and now I've had adventures and got an adventure. You know, that it's the same market that they're appealing to, rather than appealing to two different markets, in my opinion, because they're so closely related, the bikes. And obviously you've got a market of people that will be doing motorway miles, you've got emergency services, and you've got people who want the protection as well. And then you've got, on the other side for the GSA, you've got people that are taking the bike touring and want the GSA for different reasons, and you've got people that take it off-road, you've got people that might want to do off-road, people that like the look of it. But I don't know, deep down for me, I think the differences between the RT and the GSA are much down to your preference of what you want the bike to look like. And of course, whether you want those creature comforts with the screen that goes up and the screen that goes down. But the bike, as you would imagine, 270 kilos, really well weighted, as is the older version that this one's replacing. It just knows what it's doing, and it just does it well. It obviously comes with panniers for extra money, but it does come with the pannier racks. So if you have got an old one and you're upgrading, you can just put your old panniers onto this one, or buy different panniers that fit, like the boom panniers that we've reviewed, or Mark has reviewed. The suspension, obviously you can change it to your liking, so whether you want it hard, normal, soft, you've got different modes to ride in. You've got rain and road and dynamic and enduro and enduro pro, all adding their own characteristics to your style of riding, or the characteristics to your ride at that time. The brakes, as you would imagine, are really good, and because it's a GSA and also because it's a BMW, all of the switchgear is exactly the same. So, you know, why fix something if it's not broken? And to be honest, this isn't broken. You've got all of these. They are black now. You know, it's quite strange. I don't mean to diss manufacturers, but I do find it very, very strange when they say, oh, we're bringing out a new model because it's white or because it's a green. It's really bizarre. You know, when you can go to a car manufacturers and buy the bike in any colour you want, buy the car in any colour you want, you would have thought this day and age you would be able to go to the manufacturer and say, I'd like that bike, but I'd like it in green, please. I just don't see why they limit themselves to different colours. Obviously there's a huge reason, and that would probably be down to the fact that they are manufacturing and they don't want the costs to be sky high, so they want to make extra profit, or as much profit as possible. That's why people are in business. But wouldn't it be good if you could go in and you say, I really like that bike and I'd like it in blue, please? Oh, I'm sorry, they don't do blue in that model. Why don't they do blue in that model? They did it in last year's model. It's really bizarre. Do you know, one of the differences that I can feel is that when I bought my GSA, it's done, what, nearly 20,000 miles now, I think? It's now feeling really nice, smooth. It's not to say that it wasn't really smooth before, but it seems to have found its niche, its place to be. It's smooth and comfortable. But this one, although everything's really tight because it's brand new, it feels smooth already. Now, I'm not saying that mine was not smooth when I got it, but this, I can't remember feeling that the bike was this smooth when I bought mine brand new, as I'm feeling with this one. So, seating position. Visibility. Well, seating position, no different to the old outgoing model. The visibility, again, no different to the outgoing model. The mirrors are really good. Sometimes I get the feeling that you could just tilt them just a little bit more, little bit out, just a little bit more, just to be able to see that little bit more. But I haven't got a huge amount of my arm in the mirrors that we've often said about with some other manufacturers and some other bikes. So there's not a problem with visibility at all. It just feels like a together bike. And did I have any expectations of it being anything different? The answer's got to be no. I didn't have any preconceived ideas that this was going to be any different than the one that I've already got and the one that Mark's got, other than it being newer technology, perhaps smoothed out. I think the torque range has been smoothed out, or the torque curve has been smoothed out, so you know, it is a lot smoother to ride. The engine, still the opposed twin, sublime ride, and obviously there are people out there that do like the opposed twin and some people that don't like the opposed twin, but what I really like about it is the amount of engine braking you have. There isn't an issue with going down a hill and having to constantly be on your brakes, because the engine braking is just so good on these bikes. I was right, the tone of the exhaust seems, I don't know, a little bit less hollow, if that makes sense. One thing that they haven't done is they haven't added an ability that I will have a look later on, but it doesn't appear that they've added an ability to change the heat on the grips. It's a two-stage again, so it's either on, which is good, or burn your fingers off. Obviously the weather has a big part to play in whether it's going to burn your fingers off or not. But you know, like the RT that we were riding the other week, you put your heated grips on and then you have an ability to use the scroll wheel to turn it up or turn it down, and I just don't understand with the TFT screen on this bike and the scroll wheel why that couldn't have been integrated. Now, my bike, roughly about 125 brake horsepower and torque, and this one, as we've said, was 134 brake horsepower and 143 torque. I'll put all of the stuff on the screen somewhere just so that we get the figures right. But I'm not sure how easy it is to tell the difference between the horsepower and the torque from my 2016 bike to this 2019 bike. You know, is it, if it was a difference in 100 brake horsepower, then God, you'd know the difference. But you know, we're talking perhaps just under 20 horsepower, and you are talking just over 20 torque, newton meters of torque difference. But I'm not sure where you would notice that, or how quickly you would notice the difference. What it is nice in is low speed in sort of like second, third. There doesn't seem to be much hunting. And by that I mean where the bike is going, you're clearly either in the wrong gear or you're in the right gear, but the speed is kind of on the cusp of where you need to either change into third or stay in second, or vice versa for any other gear. It's just the speed is kind of keeping the revs just at the place where you just feel that you just need to change into a different gear, and I'm not getting that at all. You know, this is 30 miles an hour or near as damn it, about 3,000 revs in second gear, and there is no hunting whatsoever. And from that respect, it feels very much more honed, very much smoother, very much more of a smoother, comfortable riding experience. And it sounds like we always diss the older versions of the bikes when they're preceded by these new ones, or superseded by these new ones. But it's strange, until they improve and bring out a newer model, you don't realise or even notice how the old one needed to be improved in many cases. Whereas when you jump on the newer one, and it's smoother, and you know, it feels more together. That's when you kind of notice, when you get back on your bike, how much different it is. Yeah, do you know, earlier on I was saying, is it possible to notice the different torque, you know, the different torque power on the newer version? I'm not sure, but when I came up there, my bike would have done it just as easily. This one just seemed to do it with a little less effort. It just felt that it had a little bit less effort. I get the feeling that if that was my bike coming just round that around that left-hand hairpin almost up the hill, just to put the power on my bike, I probably would have ended up opening the throttle quite a lot further. Whereas this one, I think I could feel the torques actually pulling me up there and not giving me the impression that the engine was not straining, but was under a little bit more pressure than mine would have been.
Here's Toby!
You're bound to see Mark's little finger at some point across the lens of this camera, I know it. Anyway, welcome to another video. And today we've got this little beauty. What do you reckon? Does my bum look big in this?
Probably, because it's a big bike.
I really like it. This is the exclusive
Exclusive, you say?
GS Adventure 2019 version 1250.
Wow.
Now, I couldn't have said that in any other complicated way. The quick shifter is a dream.
Lovely.
Oh my gosh, it is a dream. You can't feel yourself going into different gears. You really can't, even with the clutch. It's so smooth. It's just unreal. The seating position exactly the same as the older version. The seat feels a little bit more comfy. I'm not sure whether it is. It felt a bit more memory-fied, if that makes sense.
Memory-fied?
Yeah.
Got memory foam seats now, have we?
Well, I don't know, but it felt like it was. And one thing I did notice, the seating position, I tend to sit with the back of my bum right on here, on my bike. And I was saying that that's why I've had to get bar risers, because I was getting a pain just across the top of my shoulders, because I was just that far forward. This one, for some reason, the seat has sat me there, more up to the tank, and I felt much more comfy. So I'm going to try that on my bike. It might be the configuration that this seat's on.
So does that mean there'll be a set of bar risers going for sale soon?
Well, it could be, but I felt very, very comfortable on this. Usual refinements with the right length of your leg down onto the pegs. All of the controls responded exactly how they respond on my bike, but just with that tiny bit of finesse. It's hard to explain. It just feels more together. The engine, I was saying when I was riding that how do you know the improvement of the horsepower, and how do you know the improvement of the torque when you're riding around normally? And it wasn't until we got to a hairpin on a slight hill that I noticed that when I was in second gear, because that was just comfy to ride along, when I pulled away, my bike would have been giving to me the sounds and the feeling that it was digging deep in its toolbox of getting you up the hill. Whereas this one...
I thought it was poetry, that, mate.
I know. But this one obviously did the same job, but didn't make me feel like it was digging as deep. So perhaps that's where you feel the torques, I don't know. It's certainly got a good pickup. When you pull the throttle back, it really goes. Whether or not that's different to mine, or whether I've just got used to mine and this is a new, tighter bike and it feels different, I don't know, but it certainly felt as though it went a little bit quicker. The throttle...
We'll look at the throttle.
Yeah, the throttle I felt really, again, smooth. Now I noticed on mine, when you come off the throttle, and just don't dump it, but when you come off the throttle, there's a clear characteristic of the engine where the bike would suddenly stop, or lurch forward a tiny bit, and you compensate with your body, wouldn't you, when you're riding? This one, when you came off, it just seemed so smooth. A couple of times I had to look down to actually see whether we were moving forward. It was really smooth. You've got your usual refinements of the switch gear. This one's got the SOS button, and
we like the SOS button.
Well, it's really strange because when I came into Greek, it said emergency call failure, go and find assistance or something. And apparently that isn't a problem with the bike. It's just that this is out of range or something.
Something to do with telephone
telephone
thing. It
signals.
happened to me in Norway, but I still, when I fell off. Did I tell you I fell off?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you told the world.
Yeah, they still called me.
Yeah. So use your switchgear. No problems with the mirrors. Same mirrors as on the old one. See everything. Tiny bit of your shoulder in there, but no different than the old version. And then coming round to this side, exactly the same switchgear, but funnily enough, this time it's black.
I was going to mention because it has a black handlebar as
Yeah.
well. We're talking semantics there, aren't we?
I know, and you know, I was also saying because this is a new colour, isn't it? Now let me find out what the colour's called.
Calamanta?
Kalamata. This colour is.
Kalamata.
What Kalamata is, I do not know. It looks like a
I'm
bronzy,
sure some of our
goldy
lady
brown.
subscribers will be able to tell us. They know
might.
all about
Please
colours.
Please tell us. I think that it's browny gold. Looks quite nice. But I
My
don't know.
mother would have a term for that.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I'm sure she would. I don't know whether you've thought about it, Mark, but you go and buy a car and they say, what colour would you like it? And I say, I'm looking for a blue car or a red car or a yellow car, whatever takes your fancy. Why is it that when you go to a manufacturer of motorbikes that they say, we brought out a new model this year
And there's only
because
3
it's blue?
colours.
And you're like, but why can't I have that in sky blue pink if I wanted it to? I don't understand, other than the fact that the manufacturing process would mean that they've got to make it for you and it costs more for them, therefore less profit. But why isn't there that much choice in motorbikes?
You're limited
is
to
in
like
cars.
3 colours per model.
Yeah, and if you don't buy it that year and you can't find it second hand, you've got to go and do it yourself, haven't you?
Do you remember the 1200, the GSA that they did in the like a greeny colour? I'm just going to come down to this now.
That was really nice.
With the orange writing on.
Yeah, that was really nice.
And it was
I
a
liked
real
that.
Marmite thing, wasn't it? I actually liked it. I
Yeah,
liked it
did
a
too.
lot.
I did too.
But people hated it.
Wow. It's like Marmite, isn't it? Like you said. Screen, really good screen. One thing I did notice about it, and I get the same on my aftermarket screen, is you're paying like £18,000 in the UK for a bike like this. It's no small feat of money, is it? It's a lot of money. It's probably next to what you would spend on your mortgage, you know? It's a huge bill. And you're riding along.
No!
It's not rattling. You can't hear it rattling, but why
It shakes that much?
Yeah. Why is there not a stabiliser bar? I mean, that's £18,000 worth of bike, and it's moving. Now, I would have expected that to be.
That's
more
tacky, that
solid.
actually.
And to be fair, my bike does the same. I've got a bigger screen. Probably did the same with the normal size screen like this one's got. But you know, just for a tiny little thing like Mark talked about on the XR, a couple of mil here to stop the sat nav going across the dashboard on the XR. Why not just an extra bar that comes up here both sides that holds it in place so it's not rattling?
It looks a bit loose, actually.
Well, it's good. It's got all this
Oh, okay.
this thingamajig here.
Maybe
to
because
raise
it's
it
so
up and-
so low down that it is. Well, it shouldn't be like that. Shouldn't be like that.
It's
Stop
just,
it, Mark.
just really odd, isn't it? You know, you've got all the LED lights, all of that sort of stuff, and coming round here, I mean, which is exactly the same as the other one, coming round here, I didn't have noticed that I do like the way that they've restyled the, I mean, you can't do an awful lot with something that's really good, but they have restyled the bodywork, and I think
Crash bars.
they've restyled the crash bars
Yeah,
as well. to fit
different
them.
shaped crash bar.
Also restyled this so you haven't got so much of an indent where all the dirt gets. You can clean that presumably a little bit better for the airflow. Other than that, not an awful lot's changed on the bike. Other than it's exclusive and it tells you here
Hang
on
on,
one
we've got-
side.
We got, there you go. It says GS exclusive, and we'll go past these numbers here because this is important. So it's 1250 there.
But over here you get R1250 exclusive.
Look at that. You get R1250 exclusive there. But if you come down here,
You don't get the exclusive.
oh, we're nitpicking.
Yeah. They've also remodeled this as well because the badge on our 1200s is lower down. That's up there on the cover for your water reservoir in there. Everything else, I'm probably doing them a disservice. I think actually the pot cases, they're slightly redesigned in shape. But visually, as soon as I saw this bike at the showroom, I thought they haven't really changed anything about it at all. Is it just the engine? And you would have seen a couple of weeks or a few weeks ago the RT review that we did, and we said much the same, didn't we, Mark? That the RT looked like the old RT, exactly the same. There was nothing different about it at all, other than a few tiny little tweaks that you've really got to look at. And I think that's much the same with this bike. But where do you go on a bike that does everything so well? It must be really difficult to come up with something majorly different.
I think it probably is. They're just cosmetic changes in some of them, like on our bikes.
Yeah.
This is the same colour as the tank.
Yeah.
It's black handlebars, anodised handlebars.
See, this thing is quite interesting. They've put this here again. I found a use for it on a tour, and that was to put my boarding card for the ferry in it. Now, it's a massive pocket at great expense for one of those things in there. I wouldn't put anything else in there. I know that BMW have made it so you can put your key in it, but why would you put your key in it? I always keep the key in my pocket.
Do you know what I put in mine?
Sweets.
My plastic...
Emergency Murray Mints.
No, funnily enough, I put my plastic side stand.
Oh yeah, elephant foot.
The elephant foot thing.
See,
but I had to cut it down to get it in there.
See, things like that and things like this, it's less tacky than the first one I thought, but it's just the same as mine. It's just a bit of plastic that's held in there by clips or clipped in.
Yeah.
Why not make the tank that size and have just that little bit more fuel? I don't know. Why have these sort of things here that, and tell me if you do use it, if I'm talking out my arse, but why have something there that the majority of people will never use?
You can't even put a phone in it or anything like that.
No, it's really odd. I mean, you have got your auxiliary connection there in exactly the same place as the other one.
Usual
BMW
DIN pointless
thing. So
fitting.
you know, and I was thinking the other day, why do you hate these connections so much, Mark? And I know exactly what you mean. I've been on tours before where I've got all the helmet stuff and I wanted to charge it as I was going. To be able to do that, I've got to buy the BMW thing, then an adapter for the USB to put it in, and before you know it, that adapter where you could just plug it straight in is now that long, hanging down, and you've got to find places for the wires. And I totally get why you don't like that sort of thing. Why is it not standard? I just don't understand. There must be a reason for it.
Well, they blame the canvas for everything, don't they?
Yeah.
But
damn those canvases.
Damn those. You get one, you get three coming together.
Now, what I do like about this bike, though, is the screen. But I can't say that the screen is any different on this model than it is on the previous model that you could have this fitted to. But I'm
just going to point something out here.
Point it out.
Because you can see the temperature there. I'll point to the temperature, which is here. And look at this little rascal here. Toby's been riding with the heated grips on.
Yeah, and I don't mind telling you. You know, the fonts are really good, the colours are really good, they're not garish, they are quite nice and comfortable to read. And I was talking that they probably put millions of pounds into research to get them right, and it sounds a silly thing, but you need that information at a split second's glance all the time, and it's got to be right, and I think they've got it right. You can do so much on here, but I still don't understand why there is a sat-nav and a TFT. Why they haven't, like they have in the cars, integrated sat-nav into the TFT display. Even if you were using sat-nav on a bike, you could easily have half the screen as the road that you're following and all of the information on
You can get a turn-by-turn on the TFT,
yeah, but
it doesn't show you the map.
No, you know, and why not do away with this? Is it, and I'm being very sceptical, is it because they make £600 on every device they make?
Oh!
I don't know, because profit is a big consideration with any business, isn't it? None of us can say any different. If you've got your own business, it's all about the profit, because you wouldn't be in business otherwise. But is that the next thing? Have I thought about the next thing and they're already developing? I don't know. I think it's really quite strange, because between this and the RT, there's obviously a hugely different market for the RT in terms of just touring. But is there really? It's the same bike, isn't it? Just with a few tweaks, with a different shell. and it makes it so difficult to make a choice, because I want an RT and I want a GSA, but I can only afford one. The bank manager will hate me if I go and buy one of these as well, and I'll have nowhere to live. I'll have to live in a pannier. But I would have one of these. Is it something that I would change my 2016 model specifically to get one? I don't think it is.
No, remember when I said I'd never buy the new Rally? Ooh.
And I think that's only for one reason. I think it's only because if I'm looking at my bike that was 16, 17, 18 grand, to just change that for these changes, and these changes, believe it or not, feel immense when you're riding it, and a TFT screen, I'm not sure I would do it just for the point of upgrading to the new bike, because now that they've got the 1250s on there, guess what? The 1200s might be cheaper because there's more of them to sell. And my bike's coming up, it's going to need changing soon for the miles that we're going to be doing. So this is something that I'll think about, but I won't discount the 1200 because they're still amazing bikes. They've just put the cream on the cream. And this is smoother than the smoother one that was last year, that was smoother than the smoother one that was a year before, that was smoother than the smoother one the year before. So, if you like the video, give it a massive thumbs up, because we always love those thumbs up. And hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the very next video.